Hey, it's Rich, the Louisiana Hobby Guy. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be doing a review of an enclosure, and I think I'm going to call this Accessory Week. I've got a few things that are in the shop that I need to get out of the way, so I'm going to do a few quick, short videos, and today's is going to be on the Sculpfun enclosure. It's a portable enclosure, sort of like the last one that I did. Very lightweight, easy to use, and Sculpfun is providing 3 of these for my raffle. So let's just jump right into it, and let's talk about the new enclosure, the new large enclosure from Sculpfun. Alright, so here is the box that it came with. Everything is labeled really nicely, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, very easy to assemble. The instruction booklet I didn't even open. I went directly off of the front page with the picture that has all of the items itemized on there. And everything was very simple to put together. A lot of A parts and just the corner parts, and everything fit together perfectly. In fact, I think the entire build probably took me less than 5 minutes. And it has these nice little Velcro tabs on there that hold the enclosure in place, the fireproof enclosure. And you know, that's something that you want to have. You're still able, if you undo the Velcro, you can still use the pass-through on this. And here's the little exhaust valve or fitting, and that filter should come out because it doesn't really work well. It impedes too much of the airflow. So you should be exhausting to the outside or using an air scrubber to begin with. So here's the final product. I did take and run my heat gun over the plastic to get rid of all of the wrinkles, and it came out just perfectly. You know, like I said, maybe 5 to 7 minutes for the total build. And you know, other than the smell from the fireproof enclosure, you know, it was just perfect. And here you can see it with the cover open, and it's ready to use in 5 to 7 minutes. I thought that was just perfectly done. All right, so here I've got it loaded with the X tool, and I know it's kind of hard to see because it's dark inside of there. But if we take a look at the measurements, it is almost 28 inches across. And if we were to take a look at the X tool measurement as an example, which is the largest diode laser that I have in the 400 by 400 category, it is 23 inches. So 23 versus 27 inches is a big difference. You got plenty of room on both sides, so if you happen to have a laser that's smaller than this with the drag chains, it's still going to work. And if we go front to back, you'll see that, well, you probably won't see it in the video, but it's about 29 inches from the front to the back. And I'll give you the manufacturer specs. Actually, let me do this from the inside to be more accurate. It's 26 inches from front to back. And if we were to take a look at the X tool, it's 22.5 inches from front to back. So this being the largest laser, 400 by 400 laser that I have, you know, this is fitting in here with no problem. You have plenty of height inside here. So from my, not from the ground, in fact, I should measure it from the bottom. From the bottom to the top is about 18 inches. From my honeycomb bed to the top is 16 inches. So you have plenty of room in here if you wanted to drop in a roller accessory, you know, and come up. You know, you have just a ton of room inside here to do everything that you need to do. They got the zippered flap, the cover here, and you'll see here that I just used my heat gun and passed it over it for a couple seconds. It took out all of the wrinkles. You couldn't see through it before. Now you can see through it just fine. So you'll need to do that. You know, you can also use a hair dryer. or something like that. You know, hair dryer, heat gun, it doesn't matter. The vent is going to be over there on the right corner, and I'm going to be using my air scrubber today, hooked up to it. And it is, I think it's a 3-inch, let me measure it real quick. I'm pretty sure it's a 3-inch adapter on here. Let's see. It looks like right at about 3¼ inches, the actual adapter size. So you probably either need to 3D print or run down to Home Depot and get an adapter to make it fit a 4-inch hose. Today I'm going to be using a 6-inch hose, and because that 6-inch hose and that air scrubber is going to suck the entire side into the air scrubber, so it'll be completely sealed. So let's go ahead and get started with the first project and just run one off. All right, so what I've done is I've gone ahead and put a light in here so you can see a little bit better. I've got the X tool in here, which, like I said, is the largest in the 400 by 400 series. And if you look down here, I've also got all of the leg extensions on the X tool. So right now we're sort of pretending like we're doing a rotary object. And I've raised up the honeycomb bed, and we're going to run this job off. And I'm going to start up the air scrubber and show you how it works. All right, I've got the air scrubber on. You can see up top here that this is tight. Do you see that? And I've got the bottom open about 8 or 9 inches here. So you do need, you know, air in for air to come out. And I think this is going to be an optimal berm. So I've got a little 2-inch by 2-inch square that I've created in fill, and I'm going to run it really hot so that you can see firsthand that even though generating a lot of smoke, it's going to be completely clear. And I'm going to try and angle this camera a little bit better so you can see what it's doing. Hopefully that'll help. Change the angle to something like that, and I think that's probably give you a better idea of what's going on in there. You can see completely through this with no problem, and you may not be able to see it. The X tool blows the smoke off to the left and toward the rear, but it's circulating back and going right out the side port there. Let me give you a quick shot of what's going on the side here where the air scrubber is. You can see that this wall is sucked all the way in, and there's nothing attaching that hose. It just sucked right up to the actual fitting itself. And now I'm stuck in the wires. Okay, here we go. So there is not a bit of smell coming out. If I were to zipper this closed now, it would just create even more suction, and you didn't see the top there, but the top got sucked down even further. Can you see that? With the zipper closed. So we're not gonna leave it closed. I'm gonna zipper it back open again, about a good 6 inches or so, and leave it like that, because without proper air coming in, it's only going to defeat the purpose of the suction of the machine itself, the air scrubber, or if you have an inline fan or whatever. And I can tell you that even if you have a good air scrubber, even if I were to open this all the way like that, it's still going to suck all of the smoke out of this enclosure. So this smoke is still gonna be drawn out that vent over there, because it's being drawn in from here. So if you have a good air scrubber or a good inline fan, you know, more air in is not necessarily a bad thing. And you can see that I'm running slow and hot there, and all of the smoke is just going straight out the enclosure. There's not a bit of smoke coming into the shop here, and it's all traveling I know you can't really hardly see it in the video, but you know, running this slow at 100% power on the X tool, you know, I'm creating some smoke here for sure. So I'll pull this down again, and you can see just how easy this is to operate. You just pull down the zippers and that's it, and they work perfectly. And I'll leave the bottom open, like I said earlier, about 6 or 8 inches, because we need to have that air coming in. All right, so let's talk for a minute about the flame retardant properties of this cover. And you can see there's a timer running, and this is in hyperlapse here. We're already at 1 minute and 27 seconds, 1.5 minutes with the flame going. You know, if you've got a flame for 1.5 minutes going on, you're not paying attention to your laser, and you're going to wind up in trouble. But you can clearly see this is going to go 3 minutes. Right now it's 3 minutes, no problem. You know, the flame retardant works perfectly. All right, so there you have it. The new larger enclosure fits all of the standard 400 by 400 lasers, including some of the larger ones. And you saw the X tool is the largest 400 by 400, so no need to show it with all the other ones. Works well. If you saw, I'll put links down below in the show more section if you want to take a look at the air scrubber that I'm using. Let's talk for a minute about getting the fumes out completely. This air scrubber that I'm using is not necessarily meant to vent to the indoors. It does have an exhaust vent with a pipe on it that is supposed to vent to the outdoors. So while it does take away about 90% of the smoke and the fumes, it's not 100%. So for those of you that do woodworking, you know the shop smells like cut wood. Well, if you're doing lasering, your shop is going to smell like burnt wood. It's sort of like an air freshener smell. But you know, my rule is that if you can smell it, it's bad for you. So it's bad for your lungs. So you really should, no matter what enclosure that you're using, you should vent it to the outside. And I'm going to put a couple different links down below so that you can see an inline exhaust fan to use with this, as well as an air scrubber that are reasonably priced anyway. So but it is really important that you vent these fumes. It's important that you have protection from the laser beam, and the enclosure does do that. I still wear my laser glasses whether I have it in an enclosure or not, and especially, you know, on CO2s, you know, people talk about, well, it has a door cover. Well, that's, you still wear your glasses. The glass that comes with the enclosures, with the CO2s, does not prevent 100% of the laser beam in case of a reflection. And if that reflection happens to catch you in the eye, you could be in big trouble. So you still have to wear your glasses. Enclosures are basically a way to minimize the amount of smoke and laser beams that are coming from the laser. And if used properly, you know, they're absolutely great. The thing that I like best about these portable, like grow tent style ones, is the fact that they're so lightweight. You can literally pick this thing up with 3 fingers and remove it completely off the top of your laser. And I like that. And there have been a few people that have said, well, I want my enclosure to be sealed. And you know, that's, in my opinion, that's not the best way to think about this. Your enclosure should never be sealed. On my CO2, I open the small front door on it, even though it's got the pass-throughs, to allow more air out. More air in, more air out is pretty much how the rule works. If you're not, you can be sucking as much air as you want out of a sealed enclosure, but if there's not air coming in, well, it's just going to reduce the power of your inline fan. Another thing too that you could do with this is you don't need to have the bar all the way across the top in the front. So you can take your hacksaw and you can cut that bar to about 3 inches on each side, and that would work just as well as it does now, covering the whole top. And that would give you a lot more area to reach in and, you know, move your projects around, move your laser head around, whatever it is that you need to do, without having to take the cover off. So that's probably something that I'm going to do. I'm probably going to get my hacksaw and cut that centerpiece of the bar out, because it's totally unnecessary. There's no support needed in the middle, only on the 2 corners, and only for maybe 2 or 3 inches. So that is one hack that I'll do to it. I didn't like the smell, and you know, it really has a horrible smell that reminded me of the Katrina trailers, the formaldehyde smell. That's something that, you know, when I assembled it here in the laser shop, the smell was overwhelming. In fact, I had to wind up putting my fume mask on just because it was so overwhelming. So I would suggest that maybe you air this out, you know, outside for a day or two before you use it. And another thing that I did was I took my heat gun and I applied heat to the cover, the see-through cover, and that got out all of the wrinkles so that you could see really fine through it. You could probably use a hair dryer as well. I used the heat gun and did it in under a minute. So really nice enclosure, pretty good price. You know, I think it's at the $99 price point on Amazon. And there will be 3 of these available for raffle. So for those of you that are watching this video, there'll be a raffle link right down below that'll take you to the raffle for this enclosure, and there will be 3 winners that'll be picked. And unfortunately, Sculpfun is only using their Amazon US account for this, so it's only available to people that are in the USA only. Sorry, everybody else. I know everybody complains about not having worldwide raffles, but I can't help that. It's not my choice. It's up to the manufacturers. So there you go. That's about everything I can think of with it. I thought it was, you know, a great product. It's at a good price point when you consider what it would cost for, you know, any of these metal enclosures, some of them, or glass, plexiglass enclosures, some of them upward of, you know, $300–400, which makes no sense to me when you can have something like this that's much easier to use. And if necessary, you can break it down just by taking out a couple of rods in a couple of minutes, folding up the enclosure and stick it in a drawer if you need the space, or put it in a box up on a shelf. So you don't necessarily need to keep it fully assembled all the time. And I did like the assembly. You know, the assembly was wonderful. You know, here's part A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and the instructions were perfect. So everything about it seems to me like this would be a good buy. If you're interested, oh, the only thing I didn't mention is the little air filter is pretty much worthless. So that blocks the airflow that's coming through there, and gave my scrubber a hard time drawing air. So you probably want to have an air filter outline, you know, toward the end of your line if you're going to be venting this indoors. And you'd probably want to use some sort of 3-stage air filter. You know, you could buy, you could make one out of wood with 3 different compartments, put charcoal in one, put HEPA filter in another, put regular filters in the third, and that should take care of most of the odor. It should be a pretty easy build. You just make a rectangular box with 3 compartments, fill them up, seal it up, and you're good. You know, drill a hole on either side. So that you could do that. You could modify that to vent to the indoors. I still would suggest that all venting that you do goes outside. So with that said, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was a short one, and you know, I'm not good at that. And as always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.